episode number 437. This is, as we know, the first Monday of every month. We have our Health Hub Bali collaboration with Tracy here, just sitting right next to us. And tonight, obviously, is part 2 of how to elevate your journey to health, right? So, or elevating your health journey. There you go. She was looking at me all funny there. I knew I got it wrong. So, tonight, Rory Callahan. Now, this is interesting because I remember some years ago when I met Tracy from Health Hub Bali, Rory, I think we met prior, and I remember about 2.5 years ago, you had already known Tracy for a number of years prior to that, right? And so you were there pretty much very close to the beginning of Health Hub Bali that's been around for almost 10 years, but started in Australia and came to Bali. So love to hear about that journey in a moment.
Sure?
Oh yeah, of course. And so tonight, as we know, we have some questions, but the things which are going to be interesting tonight will be, and we spoke about it a little bit before, this is lifestyle medicine. So what is lifestyle medicine? Number one, and what is a lifestyle entrepreneur? So lifestyle entrepreneur, lifestyle medicine, which we're going to start with in a minute, Rory. But just for those of you tuning in now, this is episode number 437, as I mentioned. SpeakuP Monday is an award-winning show. And look, it's about entrepreneurism. It's about social impact. It's been endorsed by Forbes Business Council, by the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy here in Indonesia, Bali Tourism Board, Bali Promotion Board as well, and a few others. Number 1 Bali Changemaker. There you go. Nawana's Social Fund. So look, but what we really want to do is, provide really good information, and tonight there'll be a lot of takeaways. So if you have anything to write anything down upon, whether it be your phone, whether it be a piece of paper, old school OG, then I suggest you do that, because Rory is packed with so much great information and usable intel, and that's one of the reasons why we love him. So let's get on to tonight's show. So let's start with you, Rory. Maybe introduce yourself. If you really want, we can go into the lifestyle medicine versus the lifestyle entrepreneur to give us a good piece of clarity from the beginning, and also then what brought you to Health Hub Bali and what it stands for you.
Okay, hi, nice to meet everyone, and
a bit closer, microphone,
and the people online too. I'm sure this will end up somewhere. So, yeah, where do we start? I'm from Australia originally. I started as most people do. I had the opportunity, the privilege to go to university in Australia. I learned how to dissect human bodies, microbiology, sports science, exercise physiology. I was just curious as a kid, how the body works. And then I became like a semi-professional athlete, got stress fractures, got injured. So I followed that passion, became a sports physio, did that for many years, burnt out. And then I realized that all my medical friends weren't healthy. And a lot of the patients that I was working with weren't actually ever leaving the clinics. And I had to do that man in the mirror moment where I checked myself and I'm like, am I actually helping anyone? First of all, am I helping myself? Because I felt like a bit of an oxymoron. You know what I mean? Like if I'm a health professional, but I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm not healthy, I'm not happy. I know what to do. I know to go to the gym. I know to do the meditation, I know to do the breath work. I know to do, eat the right foods, but somehow I'm just having 5 coffees a day to try and get through that 100 hours a week to look after all the people that need help. Then it was just like that little trigger that something wasn't right. And then I spent the next 8 years exploring, there's 12 medicines in lifestyle medicine. And I wrote a book on self-care about it. And that was kind of like my ikigai, That was the thing that, I guess, merging the two worlds of wellness and business. I had to partner with a wellness business, help them have a bigger impact. That freed my time. By the age of 28, 29, I had the resources to self-fund my own projects. So then I realized, that was the work and lifestyle part of it was the thing that actually allowed me to come to Bali, to have these conversations, to write the book. And more recently, I just turned the book into a physical wellness space, which was kind of cool. So really looking at, how can we create spaces where people do the things that keep them well? Obviously, we have this conversation all the time with Trace. It's like, I'm not anti-healthcare. I'm actually very pro-healthcare. I chopped my finger off and I went to a clinic in Nusa Penida, and there was a surgeon who trained in South Korea and that just happened to be in Bali, and she just stitched it back on by taking a little bit out of my palm. And I was like, like, whoa, like didn't do general anesthetic or anything, just local anesthetic, did the work, and then 4 weeks later my finger's good and I can go surfing again. So we need all of it. But I think the conversation I really want to promote today is like, what's the free medicine? What's the stuff that we can do every single day by ourselves, as communities, as collectives, and also look beyond like the things that, you know, we see on the media, you know, like breathwork's big at the moment, human design and getting to know your thing, that's the big thing. Yoga was big for a minute, Pilates, functional training, calisthenics. But all of these things are they're just ways of nourishing our body, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. And we're all just trying to meet our basic needs: food, water, shelter, a house full of love, companionship, and then finding some purpose beyond self to like do talks like this and just show up. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And I guess like if there's one message that I want to share today is that it's connection is medicine. So that's the ultimate. It took a village to raise us as kids, or a community. It takes a community to heal the sick, and also takes a connection and community to live towards longevity. So like if I just set that as like a foundation, it kind of shows what this is. These places like Tropical Nomad Cafe, they're designed to promote connection, and in that you meet people you go to the beach with, surf with, go to the gym with, maybe relationships, maybe partners, maybe business opportunities, right? But it's all about creating these spaces where these connection points happen quite easily.
Great. And look, just one thing I will say to you, Brother Rory, is that these microphones, not even here, but here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But it's all good. We got it. So look, I think next, so many of you know Tracy already. Each month I say it and she looks at me like, no, don't make me do it again. But we're going to make you do it again. So maybe introduce yourself, because there are people here who don't know who you are. And also a little bit about Health Hub Bali, what it's doing, what it stands for, why it's here. So over to you.
Okay, my name's Tracy Groeneveld. I'm here in Bali for the last decade or so, and created a platform to connect people to better health. And what we're doing is showcasing what Bali has to offer on the health and medical tourism model. Sorry about my throat this week.
So I got some water here if you need it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, what else would you want to know? All right, I'm a functional medicine background. So the idea is that people are either vitality seekers or health seekers that are coming to Bali, and they're looking for answers. And yeah, there's usually a gap. There's a gap that's been happening, and that they can actually probably own their own health, because where they're going sometimes is not what we call a healing, or they're looking for solutions. So we're saying Bali's a place, doesn't matter which level, we can find a different way.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. And look, so just so we kind of keep us on track, so here are 5 questions that we're going to answer. There'll be many more, but I just want to give you a bit of an insight. So what is the science behind longevity? Technology's role for long life? And what does the health journey look like for us? Difference between longevity and vitality, which I think is a great question to answer, and what Bali offers for health and vitality seekers. So I think what we'll do is we'll start off with at the beginning. I think that's a good place to start. So maybe what is the science behind longevity? Who wants to answer that one? The science behind longevity.
Well, I just want to ask the audience, what is longevity? Like, show of hands, does anyone have any idea of what it might be to them? What is longevity?
Or you can just say it and he can repeat it. Yeah.
The ability to live as long as you want to live.
So length of life?
Yeah, as healthily.
Quality of life?
As possible. Yes, so
okay.
Quality and length.
Yeah.
Yes, including in that mobility and movement. So.
Yeah, it's like that Chinese philosophy. It's you're only as old as your spine.
Yeah. So right now I'm very old.
Okay, so quality of life, length of life, and your ability to remain functional and independent, right? Does anyone else have any ideas? You can just shout out as well. We don't.
Pretty much nailed it.
Yeah. So, and I think the thing I love, like when I was writing this book, was like, how do we explain it simply in a way that people can digest it? Because like quality of life, it's like You know, like what's that mean? Like length of life, like function in life. Like what does that mean, right? Because it's like I watched this video the other day, and it was a guy with no arms, no legs, winning a gold medal in the Paralympics. I was like, he looks like he's got a pretty cool quality of life, you know, like relative to the hand that he was dealt. And for me, that's super inspiring, because if I got 2 arms and 2 legs, I'm waking up with like this immense gratitude every single day. So it's like, it's different, it's personalized, right? But there are some things we do know. Does anyone know of these like longevity hotspots in the world? Yeah? Does it just popcorn style, just name one? Okinawa, Japan. Sardinia in Italy, oldest living men. Costa Rica, Nicoyan Peninsula, yeah.
I think you've got one in Florida.
Yeah, Loma Linda. Yeah. Singapore actually just got voted as one of a longevity city, along with Hong Kong. So this is kind of cool, right? Because you don't you think it has to be this little island, natural peninsula, you know, like, but it can actually be cities now. And for me, this is the most inspiring thing.
Man, Singapore caught me by like surprise, actually.
Yeah.
Great one. And Hong Kong as well.
Yeah. However, the only thing is in Singapore, it's they measure it by the length of life. They're living longer. Quality of life and the rate of suicide is actually going up. Yeah. So it's like, this is where we can be like, we look at the data and be like, okay, cool. Like, would I rather be in Sardinia drinking red wine and dancing on the tables with like my friends at 6 o'clock every day, or sitting in Costa Rica on a beach, like getting fish and like living a very simple life? Or would I like to be in Loma Linda in America in that type of environment? Or would I like to, you know, be in a big city like Hong Kong, you know, catching trains and public transport and these type of things? The cool thing is there's some fundamental things that all these like longevity hotspots have, and we can talk about that if you want, but you asked me about the science behind it, right? So the easiest way to describe, or do people know why we age?
A lot of reasons.
Okay, so why do we get older? Or like, let's start this. Who's the oldest living person in the world? Like, what roughly age is the oldest living person living to these days? Like, go Guinness World Records.
120.
Around 120, 125? Yeah. So there's this thing like called replicative senescence, which is, it says, like, this was in the Time magazine, you can all go reference it in that term, but it's the rate in which our cells genetically replicate over our lifespan. It's the reason why a bowhead whale will live to 500 years. Humans, maximum is 140. Yeah. If you understand that as an end goal, so then you see the oldest living humans around 120, 122, and then you see the average is around 70, 72. And I think in Indonesia it's around 60 to 65, right? So then we go, well, what's the secret to longevity? Why are people in Sardinia and these places living longer? The most centenarians per capita, most people living over 100 years without chronic preventable diseases. That's the kicker. Yeah? So you can live to 100, but you can kind of limp over the line. But there's people climbing trees in Okinawa in Japan, and they're over 100 years of age. People still dancing, people still running, they're still living their life. So the science behind it is a simple equation, which is over your lifespan, you make choices. So would you agree that the person you are today, physically, mentally, emotionally, is a result of the choices you started making 12 months ago, 5 years ago, right? So just do a little self-check-in. How are you feeling, physically? How are the knees? How's the back? How's the guts? How's the mind? How's the eyes? So whatever's going on in that little self-check-in is a result of choices you started making 12 months ago, right? And there's a reason for this, because in about 12 months, 80% of our cells regenerate, minus the eyes, our teeth, brain. But we know our brain and the neurological system, there's also neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, so it can still adapt and grow and change even after injury. And there's technology and science now, right? So within 12 months, 80% of our cells have regenerated, which means that in 12 months' time, with different choices today, you can actually start nourishing your body for a different end outcome. It's the reason why you can see a mate who's 120 kilos and then all of a sudden he's 80 kilos and ripped 12 months later. because he just got focused on doing a certain thing, eating a certain way, being in a certain environment, and he made a shift in his life, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he lives a long life. There's so many factors. But if the rate of regeneration, the cells regenerating 50 million times per second, if we can like slow that down or not increase it, then we don't age as fast. So the rate of regeneration, all the good things we do, breath work, meditation, good food, the rate of degeneration, alcohol, tobacco, stress, if the rate of regeneration is greater than the rate of degeneration, we age slower. If we do more harm, rate of degeneration is quicker. Our cells have to like fix themselves quicker. Think about how you feel when you have a hangover, right? It's not a good feeling. Dehydrated, inflamed, your body goes 3 days. It's just like trying to like get it back on track. Things are healing, regenerating just so you can feel normal again. Yeah? So that's kind of like the science. Like there's longevity hotspots. This is what's possible. Maybe there's something in the future where we can, biohack or bypass that 140 number. But in our kind of like genome at the moment, that's the reason why the oldest living person is 120, 140. Now, there are stories of people that have gone and sat in mountains and like meditated and transcended the physical plane, and apparently they're like 200 years old or something like that. But these things can't be validated because no one was there to measure it like 200 years ago, right? But these people have, these stories do exist. But if you understand these concepts, and I think maybe that's the rationality, but yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
I think you answered the question brilliantly. Tracy, is there anything you want to add to that?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, great. I like that. The next question, technology's role for long life. So technology's role for long life.
Is that for me to answer as well?
You know what? In its own way, it's all for you to answer.
It's all for me, okay.
Because usually it's just Tracy and I and a few other people. But today it's just you, Roy. Tracy's quite happy to sit there and not say much.
So when I was writing this book, Self-Care, it was about how do we look after ourselves so that we can look after the people we care about. And, so it's not actually about self. We look after ourselves so that we can be a good father, good mother, so that we can have the capacity to run that business, to have the resources to essentially look after our kids and the people we care about most, right? Because when I'm a health professional, I'm burnt out, I'm not really helping anyone. I need support. I need help, right? I actually become a burden on the thing I'm trying to serve. So the question, just to remind me again, was technology's role.
Yep.
So when I started this, it started with nature as medicine, right? We're from nature, yeah? So nature is the primary life support system, and then the last medicine was technology. And I was trying to figure out, how do we link these two things? But does anyone know, your iPhone, what's it made out of? Minerals, yeah? Metals. Where does that come from?
Yeah.
The earth, right? So technology is an extension of nature. Yeah? And we are nature. So there's no real difference. But what we do know is if we spend more than 2 hours behind a screen, does anyone know what happens mentally, physically, emotionally? Yeah? Compassion goes down, empathy goes down, apathy goes up. We become more disconnected, more isolated. Yeah? However, if you spend 90 minutes in nature, guess what happens? Compassion goes up, empathy goes up, feeling of connectedness goes up. So I think the role that technology plays is it's a double-edged sword. And it's a good one. I wouldn't be in Bali here sitting with you if I didn't have a laptop that allowed me to serve and do what I do from that technological device. However, I know if I spend more than 2 hours on it every day, and does anyone want to do a little experiment with me? Grab your phone, have a look at your screen time for today. And if in settings, there's a big blue button and it says screen time.
So just to be clear, what you're saying is that not 2 hours in a row. You're talking about 2 hours in 24 hours.
In a day.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, obviously, you can balance that out with different things, right? But just generally speaking, and this was done with kids. Obviously, with adults, we get adaptability. We learn how to obviously adapt to that. But what we do know is sitting, sedentary behaviors, sitting behind a screen, living in a virtual reality, disconnects us from the physical reality, disconnects us from connection.
So what if you spend, Gabriel, by the way, brother, come and join us, grab a seat. So what if you, over here?
Yeah.
So what if you basically work on your screen
Yep.
for X amount of time,
Yep.
then go for a swim, go into nature, chill out, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah,
Yep.
then come back.
Yep.
So does that extend the 2 hours, or is 2 hours still 2 hours?
It's just a relative number. It's just to give you parameters. Like, realistically, it's more the time you spend here doing this. And the thing is we've just gone through an industrial technological revolution, right?
Yeah.
So we don't even realize that we've become addicted to our phones and these devices. However, technology, if used well, should free your time. Automate processes, systems, so that you actually have more time to connect, more time to go to the beach, more time to surf.
You know what? You asked him a question. I can see a few people's
I know.
heads
I wanna-
just. So maybe call it out, right? If anyone, don't worry, we're not going to show you on camera yet, right? So hands up if it's over 8 hours. Put your hands up.
Screen time's over
Screen
8
time
hours.
for one day. Is it over 8 hours? Raise your hand.
No one's going to put their hand up.
All right.
Over 8?
Okay. Mine will be probably over 8.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Over 6?
Over 6.
Over 6? Show of hands. Come on. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, let's be.
Oh, gee,
Let's be
that's a turnout.
honest.
The doctor here.
Let's be honest.
Over 6.
Let's be honest.
Sheesh.
Okay, over 4. Over 4?
Everyone's over 4.
Everyone's
Come
over
on.
4. Over 2. Yeah, right. Cool. So from the guys that, like you said, over like a couple of hours, like what do you do to not be on the phone as much? You have another screen. Okay, so on the laptop. Okay. Bigger one. Yeah, so phone versus laptop. Yeah, okay. What about from the doctor?
Well, I need to reply a lot of chats and mostly on my phone.
Yep. Yeah, so like a lot of our connection, like my WhatsApp is like, I had one day I was 10 hours and I was like, whoa, I spent 10 hours on this thing? And then I was like trying to have a conversation. People are like, how do you feel? I'm like, man, I'm drained. Like I can't see anymore. Like I'm looking at the menu doing this and I'm like, of course you are. Like you've been looking at this little white screen for 10 hours in the day. Yeah. How do you think I felt mentally the next day? Pretty flat. Emotionally, pretty flat, right? What starts to happen when you're operating from that space? What happens in the dinner conversations with family, conversations with partners? We become a bit more reactive, a bit more tired, right? However, I go for a surf and then battery kind of comes back up. So we can play the game of like doing that. However, if we know that like over 2 hours a day, we start to increase the apathy and disconnection, that's all you need to know. And if you can keep it under 2 hours a day, you probably all know that you feel better when you do that, right? And if you get up to 10 hours a day, then you need to start looking at you're spending more time in that 24-hour period in a virtual reality than you are in the physical reality, which is where all the cool stuff is.
So Trace, anything you'd like to add to that? In other words, yeah, you got that? Just to give Rory's throat a break. He's like, give me a break. Go on.
All right. Probably what I'd like to ask Rory is when we're saying elevating the health journey, how would you explain that?
With technology?
No, just in general, what that means.
Elevating the health journey. I think like we have to get the foundation of health right first. I think we have to get the foundation of health right first before we elevate. I think that's the way that I would start, because I feel like I come to Bali and everyone wants to optimize their health. And I just check in with them on like the basic fundamentals. And not many people like are solid in like food, water, shelter, safety, security, like cash flow, resources. 95% of stress comes down to ability to meet our basic needs. Community, connection is another foundation. Most people here that I speak to, they feel isolated, they feel alone. Yeah? Or they have like a small group of people, or they have friends or acquaintances, but there's no one to really confide in. So it's like I look at the foundations. And if they've got that, let's start talk biohacking and optimization and that type of stuff. But for the most part, I think the elevation comes after the foundation is set.
Yep. So we go back to basics, and over the last nearly 3 years, we've been talking about baselines and establishing that, because
Yeah.
people have time and space in Bali when they come here looking for something to address this in their normal day-to-day life. They don't have back home.
Well, look at it. Think about it when you came to Bali, right? Yeah. So who felt better when you jumped on a plane and you landed in Bali? Just like show of hands. Show me that they work.
After 3 days.
Right? So change of environment. So you left a little fish pond and then you put yourself, like you literally made a decision, one choice, probably 10 seconds of courage, probably like I can't swear, but like a stuff it moment, or like a calling or running away from a broken relationship or marriage or a business or burnout, right? That tends to be the case. So then you come to Bali and as soon as you land, you feel better, right? All you've done is change environment. So what happens when you land in Bali? What are the things that make you feel good? What's the first things you notice when you get here? Community, culture of karma, very giving, very happy, like you're welcomed here, right? Yeah, so this community, it's a culture of karma. So that's why Bali, different to maybe another island, has a very different energy and vibe, right? Because they believe in giving. So what can we take from that? Okay, cool. How do we now pay it forward in other aspects? Someone smiles at you, smile at a stranger. All of a sudden, this whole energy becomes positive sum. You feel better. What's the other thing you notice in Bali compared to other places? Huh? Again, friendliness, community. What about the natural environment? Maybe not so much in Canggu anymore, but...
Taksu.
Yeah, Taksu, a lot of creation, a lot of authenticity, a lot of people seeking, searching, finding their purpose, right? So that also inspires us to find our own. But it's like, yeah, community and nature are two big parts. Change of environment. And then what have you noticed about the food here?
Well, you get access to organic food.
Yeah, for the most part, but like mostly plant-based isn't like a thing here. There's like vegan, vegetarian cafes. If you want to have some fish or chicken, you can. Yeah? So like your access to all these things that nourish us on a daily basis is kind of like readily available. And it's cost effective. So you feel better. And you can choose it every day without, having to spend too much money, which makes it like easier and more sustainable long term compared to say if I was doing in Perth. Yeah?
Cool. So just quickly, there will be time for questions in about 10 minutes, I'd say. So if you have any questions which are outside of this, you'll have time to answer them. So maybe the next question, and then we'll get through this list and we'll get to you, is, longevity and vitality. What's the difference? Longevity and vitality.
Trace, you go.
Okay. So what we're talking about elevating the health journey. And what happens sometimes, we've got a stuckness. And coming from a functional medicine spot, we're talking about a glitch in our health, and that's where we get the baseline sorted first. That's when we do use technology to identify some of the things, how we can have better health and a better life. And then from that space, it may be structural, it might be gut health, it might be mental health, but whatever it is, we've got time here in Bali, which we'll cover later, to address it. And that's where we use also technology, the modern technology, to be able to assess things.
So longevity and vitality is...
So what we're talking is beyond biohacking. We go into so why is everyone biohacking now? They want to be the best they can be. They want that vitality. You can live a long life and be, at the moment in some countries, sitting in a chair with dementia. So already now, whether it be 30, 40, 50, we want to start addressing the way our brain functions, and we start living in a different way that we can eliminate things. Also personalising it, because what's good for one person is different than another. Okay. And the stats are there. 1 in 2 are getting affected by different things, whatever it be. If it's not dementia, it's cancer.
Okay.
Anything you care to add, or you're...
I think longevity, like we answered that question before. Vitality, like the only way I could explain that is I got my 80-year-old mum over to Bali 2 weeks ago. And that was a beautiful moment because it was like 3 years in the making. When I actually went home just after the pandemic, she's 77. She'd been isolated, disconnected from her community, from the family. Like, you weren't allowed to hug people, you know what I mean? Basic human connection. Imagine being like stuck in a room for almost 2 years, already isolated, already disconnected, already feeling your body starting to slow down a little bit. Maybe a little bit too attached to technology and fear in the news, right? And then she comes out of that. When I went back home 3 years ago, and she won't mind me sharing, but she was feeling the effects of that. Yeah? Feeling a little bit less energetic, less vital. Her vitality was kind of low. If you look at vitality as like energy and essence of someone, it's like that authenticity, that transparency. It's like you meet someone and they're just like, man, they're so full of life. Their spirit is so rich, When she came here 3 years later, 2 weeks ago, first day she rocked up. She goes, Roz, I think this is my last trip. That was a big effort to jump on a plane to come to Bali. After 2 weeks of being here, like no word of a lie, she's like, I think I'm coming back. And the feedback I got from everybody she met, because she's travelled, she's been air hostess. She had me at 44. She's lived a beautiful life, and she's got so much vitality within her, but it just needed to be sparked back up again. And for whatever reason, like we talk about retreats and experiences and all these type of things, most of us just need to be in a nourishing environment. And seeing that with my mum at 80 and like see her just like light up, and the amount of people that were like, man, she's got such a rich spirit. That for me is vitality. I know what's going on internally, the internal systems get a bit rusty over time, the knees get a bit sore, but the vitality and the amount of life that she still had in her wasn't relative to her physical body.
So, questions. Firstly, in about 2 or 3 minutes, I'm sure 10 minutes to 7 was pretty quick. If you have questions, just raise your hand. The third mic that Rory has in his hand will come out to you, and you will be on camera. So there's a camera here that will swivel, and you will be on camera. So if you don't want to be on camera, then maybe wait till the end once we're wrapped, and then you can ask any question. Might be of a more personal nature or not. That's up to you, but that's an option, all right? So before we get there, so look, tonight we've spoken, a bit about elevating, right? And you've spoken about baselines as well, right? Meaning, from your perspective, before we get to that, let's find out where we are first, right? So going back to where we are first, the question I have to you, because you see a lot of people rolling around in Bali over the years, and you've probably spoken to a lot of them as well, right? Knowing you a bit. So what are the main 3 things that you find that people are struggling with here in order to kind of get to that baseline? And what maybe 3 things, one each, could you offer practically for them to get back to that place? Because what you're saying, I love what you're saying, is about, hey, it's free, right? There are free remedies outside of breaking your arm and so on and so on and so on, where you need to go somewhere, hospital or so on. But there are remedies that nature provides that you can literally just access like this. So that's also why I'm asking that question, so people get an idea here of how simplistic, maybe not easy, but how simplistic it actually is. All right, so just to remind you again, 3 things that you'll find that people are facing most, and then what are the remedies to that with the free system, let's call it that. Okay, so I think the first thing is we get called here. For whatever reason, this one island out of 17,000 islands in Indonesia, we come to Bali, right? And then we arrive here and something happens. The number one challenge I see is people want to stay, but they don't know how. That's the number one. They don't figure it out. Now, bear in mind, like some of my friends, like Wayan and Ode and stuff, they're living on $500 a month with a family. But somehow we can't figure out a way to meet food, water, shelter needs to be able to stay here resource-wise, to be able to keep living in a nourishing environment. So there's something where we haven't figured out how to be in service in a way where we can attract that number, working remotely, digitally, or even figuring out how to work in Bali, which, obviously isn't a big step for a lot of people, but maybe working remotely and online is probably the first biggest challenge. How can I make that $500 a month? How can I make that 2,000 euros a month to stay here?
Because if you stay in a nourishing environment, it's like when a plant doesn't blossom and bloom in the way that nature intended, you don't fix the plant, you fix the environment in which it's trying to go. Most people have made the leap. They've got here. How do they stay? So that's the first one. So figuring out how you can help each other do that, collaborate, co-create, work with each other, maybe there's opportunities. That's the biggest challenge that I personally hear as a thing that takes people out of Bali. So I'm looking at ways we can keep them here. The second thing is community and tribe. So people come here from all countries, all cultures, and for the most part, the biggest feedback I get is like, where are my people? Where's my brotherhood? Where's my sisterhood? So the best way to find your tribe, find your people, is go do the things you love. If I want to meet people that surf, I go surfing. Yeah. If I want to like meet a sisterhood of like valued women, say it was a woman, I'd go to like women's circles, and then I'd keep going until I find a group of like 2, 3, 4 women that are on the same wavelength, doing like on a similar path. Yeah. Brotherhood, men's circles, same. Yeah. Or like going to gyms or certain places like this, you're going to meet more people like you. So that's the second thing, is community. The third thing is the yin and yang of Bali. So, yeah, there's a dark side of Bali and there's a very light side, yeah? Very uplifting, very elevating. You need to choose to stay on this side of it by saying no to that side of it. This side is immediate gratification. It's the grass is greener. It's anything's possible. Maybe it takes you into the party scene, the drugs, the alcohol. Maybe it's just distraction, validation, all those things that take you away from the reason why you probably came here in the first place. The other side is like having a beautiful like lifestyle and simplicity and like the routine and community and tribe and connection and having a bit of fun and like a bit of healthy moderation, but not getting too caught on that side. So I think and to figure out what that is, you have to find your own alignment. And you have to find your ability to say yes and no to certain things. And you need to choose things that make you feel better and say no to things that might take you in that downward spiral. Because as soon as you're there, it's very hard to get out of it. And I've been there too.
I've been there too. This is you and me, brother. Tracy, you're going to talk in a minute. So many of us come, we have these experiences, some which are quite shocking for some,
yep,
and others maybe not so shocking, right? So I always find that personal example is the most compelling way for someone to really see inside of you and get the juice, right? Yep. So, coming from the perspective of, nothing we regret because it's made us who we are today. Put that one aside, yep, right? That's the one we're not going to take. We're not taking that door today.
Yep.
Let's go to the door of, something that happened to you that maybe you wish didn't happen, but how did it wake you up? How did it impact you in the confines of this conversation? What comes up?
I feel like when I first came here to Canggu, maybe like 2017, 2018, first 6 months, surfing, entrepreneurs, running retreats, like-minded people. And then all of a sudden I just started getting invited to, you meet the people, and then all of a sudden I'm partying a little bit more. Like Saturday night, oh, your friend's a DJ, there's something to do. Cool. Now I'm hungover on a Sunday. And I'm like, okay, let's go for a surf. And I'm pulling myself back out of it. But then all of a sudden it's that turns into a Monday and a Wednesday and a Thursday. And I had to sit back after 6 months and be like, whoa, what just happened? I had an amazing time, but I feel terrible. So I kind of got stuck in that cycle. I had to pull myself out of it. And, that was a beautiful wake-up call, because I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm writing a book on self-care and all this type of stuff. And I'm a health professional and all these things. And again, the same moment I had at 26, I'm having again in this journey as a lifestyle entrepreneur. And I had to sit back and really go back to basics and check myself and be like, is this the type of man I want to be? And it didn't mean that I said no to those friends, but I just said no to the things after 11 o'clock, because I had to decide, do I want to go surfing in the morning or do I want to stay out till 1 or 2 a.m.? And the thing is, because everything is available, yeah, you can choose anything. And if I'm not centered within myself, I'm feeling a bit maybe isolated, disconnected, connection and partying seems like a quick fix. If I'm feeling a bit tired, going out and doing that thing and getting into those scenes feels like immediate gratification, that false dopamine, right? However, if I went to bed early and then woke up and went surfing, there's a real dopamine. That's a real serotonin. So I just had to like flick that switch. And I think the beautiful thing about the honesty and transparency behind that is like, we'll do it. And we're going to sift and sort through different, like say 60, 40, 70, 30. If you're really unwell, like when I went through burnout, I went 100-0. I went black and white for 12 months. When I'd been, doing things like doing the right thing for 10 years, I had a year where I probably went 60-40 the other way. But then I found my medium.
Does anyone here know a tennis player called Djokovic? Just raise your hand if you know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone here does. So interesting. I watch reels a bit, not so much, but things come up. And one which I keep bumping into is just one of what happens when you lose your focus, right? So what it sounds like to me is that you lost your focus. So a lot of us think, I've got to stay in focus. But what he's saying when he's on a tennis court, he's saying it's impossible for him to keep his focus for the whole game. So instead of fighting it and saying, I've got to find my focus, the first thing he does is accept that he's lost his focus. Yeah. Accept it. I've lost my focus, so it's accepting, number one. Then number two is now, what speed can I return to focus from this point? And that determines the success or failure of that game, that match, that career, and so on. So it's not losing focus, it's how quickly you can find your way back. Exactly. And that's what I kind of hear from your share. So thank you, brother. I think that's a really valuable one to take away. So remember what I've said before is that now it's time for your questions, yeah? So if anyone's got a question related to this topic, please raise your hand. We'll take this microphone and we'll send it out. We'll take it now, actually, because I know that some of you have. If you're just tuning in, so you're watching, this is Speak Up Monday, episode number 437. It is our once-a-month collaboration with Health Hub Bali, and this one is about elevating the journey to health, or elevating your health journey. I like to personalize it. Elevating your health journey. And our guest today is Rory Callahan, old friend of both Tracy and I. And we're talking about, we've spoken a lot about lifestyle medicine. This thing which is not about breaking bones and the rest of that, but it's talking about how do we find our way to the base using what's already gifted to us, nature, right? But throughout our life and all those. And what I like about it is that, you've earmarked a great roadmap, right? So it's not just about the food we eat, the people we hang out with, the thoughts that we have, the amount of time we sleep, the amount of time we spend on devices, which have this impact on us. So it's this really whole kind of journey around how we find our base and our connection point. So now, as I mentioned before, we're on the questions section. So if you do come every week, we have anything from 10 people to 110 people. But the beautiful thing is that you get a chance to ask your questions, engage with the people up here, but even probably more importantly, you get to engage with the people who come, who are interested in the topic, which quite often are the ones that you need to take your next journey to whichever business you want to get into. So, questions. Have we got the mic? Yep. So feel free to raise your hand. We got Takano over here. Yeah. But by the way, before this handsome brother comes on, I remember, right, we started Speak Up Monday, right, at Lyfe in Bali, which is across in Brouwer, 4 years ago, 437 episodes ago. And back in those days, we had a little cafe, about 80 square meters, and this guy, who you're about to hear from, he had hair back in those days, right? I remember that he was one of the guys who used to come every week. We didn't film all of them, but beautiful energy, incredible man with incredible gifts, skills, and abilities. So what I'm going to get you to do, right, is let us know a little bit about you. We don't normally do this, but you know what? What the hell? I feel like it. We're doing it. It's okay. So maybe just let people know, that spiritual side of you, the African side, because I think that's relevant to here in the martial arts, and we'll get into the other thing after. So just introduce yourself, my brother.
Hi, good day, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming here. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, sir, for I'll bring it a little bit closer. Yeah, I'm originally from South Africa, but I consider myself a child of the world. And I've been brought up, raised by a medicine woman, raised in a medicine family, and that always goes back to nature. It also goes back to a deep sense of self, and your connection back to that ineffable being, spirit that created us all. So a deep connection with spirituality, who you are, nature, and obviously learning and feeding your mind, always I guess expanding. Got into, so the indigenous African medicine was something I always grew up with, and a big part of who I am today, and a big part of how I relate to the world. Understanding of the elements, and just the light that's within myself and the light within everybody else, and then movement and breath is something that has played a very big part in my role. So where I come from, there's a word called umoya, right? And umoya means breath. It can mean air, it means spirit, it means connection, it means soul. So all of these things play a very big part in just understanding also, and I think that ties back to longevity and vitality, the ability to live a quality of life, to vibrate high. It means life force, and that's something that I guess I've worked with a large part of my life. And for a big part of my life, I was always, I would say, anti a lot of things. I say almost anti-technology, the establishment. And I think of late, I've been kind of drawn or pushed into facing some of the things that I was always sort of anti against, even like, money. I always thought money was such an evil thing, although you needed it. But I've been kind of pulled into one direction, and being pulled into that direction, I guess, lost focus. And so it's always been that battle of, returning back to focus. And how do you do that? The different modalities and the speed of doing that. So that's just, I guess, what came to me.
No, but you know what? Like, I you know me, man. I don't plan stuff, but I just knew I had to ask you that because I knew it'd be relevant to this. And the beautiful thing about the show is about unity and diversity. Is one of the things the show stands on every episode. The other one is people inspire people, as you know, because you've been there from the beginning, my brother. Right. So those two things, there's always a third, but we'll get into that later. We'll get into that's more about mental health, but we'll get into that later, maybe right. Maybe today, maybe not. But that's what I love. And the fact that, we're talking, where are you from, Rory? Australia, which I knew already, by the way. Australia, South Africa. So different sides of the world, but we're talking about the same thing. Right? Over to you.
I think that's it. That's the one thing I was thinking is like, we stand together up on this stage, physically, mentally, emotionally, we might be seen to be different, but we're talking about the same energy, vibration, frequency. We're talking about the same thing from a different context. Whether we're talking about, what do you say? It was Umoya.
Umoya, yes.
Umoya. Yeah. Umoya, Ubuntu. There's some principles that are just fundamental to our existence. Prana, life force. Like every single culture is talking about the exact same thing. And I feel like what we're doing here is just remembering, reminding, almost disconnecting from this industrial and technological revolution to get back to our essence, which is why we feel anti this. But again, it's just energy. Money is just energy. But if we chase that at the expense of family and friends and health, it's no longer valuable. So it's like, but if we come back to the essence and that center, you said when I lose focus, how quickly can I get back to center? Yes, we have practices, meditation, breath, nature, stillness. These are the simplest ways to do it. But to go spend like a week in Munduk or something like that to actually be with yourself in nature, all the reasons that we don't do that because we've got to-do lists and busyness and all that type of stuff, they're the things we need to unlearn. Yeah, and they're the justifications we need to step back from, because when we actually create that space and we're centered, we make decisions in the right direction. We actually get to where we want to go a lot quicker. So I just love that unity and diversity and just the same frequency.
Now, did you have a question?
Yes. So my
Yes,
question.
It's like, guys, I actually have a question here. Come on, man. Give me time to ask the damn question.
I think we could just sit up here and chat. That would be awesome.
So my question is, in terms of longevity, can you outlive your genes, so to say? So some people, let's say their dad lives until 70, the mom lives until 75, their great dad lived until 60, 75, and that kind of range is like so lives. Like you say in Bali, I think the average is 65 in other countries. Can you outlive that, or is that something that's kind of already written? Can you maybe outdo it by like 2, maybe do it by 3, or could you extensively?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. It's
So just behind you, yeah.
well, just like why is the life expectancy different in one community to the community next door to it? There can sometimes be 15, 20-year fluctuations between, say, like the ghetto in one place and then this affluent, gentrified community that's right next door. The postcodes are different, but it's the same context, the same environment, the same culture. So, the only thing I could say to that is, I wrote it in the chapter, the genes is medicine, right? And a big thing is your genes are not your destiny, yeah? And it's we can actually epigenetically make different choices, which activate different pathways. So take it as an example, right? Your mum drinks Coca-Cola every single day. You choose to drink juice and water. Now, the environment that you grow up in, socially, culturally, family, is stronger than your individual willpower. Because, say, your mum's putting that on the table for 10, 15 years, you're going to start to think that is normal. And all of a sudden, vegan is whoa, what are you doing eating plants, man? We got to do this type of thing. So it's if you can break free from this context, say if your family members or your community or culture is living to 60, 62, maybe it's for other reasons, foundational medicine as well. But if they're living to 61, 62, and there's a community over here that's living to 80 or 90, simply by just choosing to be in that environment, your habits will change. And the only thing you need to do is choose to change environment. It's like being in a dirty fish pond and then choosing to be in a more nourishing environment. The same thing of people leaving a city to come to Bali and be like, I feel better. I don't know if you see the 40, 50-year-olds here, they start to age backwards, right? So I feel it's not deterministic. That's the number one thing. And epigenetics shows that at any moment, we can start to turn the tables in our favor. What it takes to do that, if 10 of your mates are all drinking alcohol every weekend and partying, it's tough. If all your mates are going to the gym and surfing and, you got farms, it's a bit easier. And I really admire the people that come from certain backgrounds, and certain environments, whereas for them to make those choices was a lot harder than someone that was born in an environment where it's already available. But the one thing is, between both of them, they both get to choose. And if they have access to the information, they have a drive or a pain point that makes them want to be or do something different. For me, my dad was an alcoholic living on the streets where I grew up. Seeing that gave me compassion and empathy, and I made a decision one day. I'm I don't want to drink because I don't want to be in that situation. And then circle it back around, I learned that he was drinking because of mental health challenges, because he didn't have the brotherhood and the support. So alcohol was readily available in that time. It would numb his pain, turn off his mind. So that was something that was almost recommended in a way. Hey, just go have some beers, you forget about it. That becomes a habit, yeah? So I think we can change in any moment.
Great question, great answer. So maybe if you hand the microphone to Tracy, and then I know you have a question, but just want to check in. Is there anything that you'd like to, anything that's coming up for you? Otherwise, it's going to be Rory and me talking on this whole episode.
There's a lot coming up.
I had a feeling it might be.
Girls talk, but I don't know.
What have you got to say?
I'm on a buddy.
What have you got to say?
No, you're okay. All right, so we'll go to your question, and then we'll come back to Tracy to hear what you'd like to really say. Tracy, come on, over to you, my dear.
Hi, my name is Naomi. Thank you, everyone on the panel, for your contribution tonight for the show. Thank you to my lovely husband for his contribution as well. But my question more so is to the panel about the darker side. Lately, I've been hearing things about some people who have passed away and have lost their lives in various ways. And you spoke about the building blocks, the fundamentals for people to be able to heal. And I'm wondering, what do you envision those fundamentals, those building blocks being for someone to use within themselves, and that they don't have to go look outside for? Because a lot of times when people get to that point, they're not reaching out. So what can they utilize, or what is that glimmer of light that they can hold on to be able to get back to reaching out to someone, to get fully back to themselves?
Can I just ask, when you said about the darker side, are you talking about a diagnosis or something like that?
No, I don't know, like the variables, right?
Energetically?
Yeah, generally, because
Right.
the people, I'm fairly new to Bali, but people do talk, right? And when someone leaves us, like, it affects so many people. So even people that are new are like, okay, what's going on, and in what way can we like support, or in what way can we show, right? This is what I'm doing within myself as like a beacon of light to say you could do it too, and you have it within you.
All right, so it's not copying and pasting things, yeah. It's the model which Rory's talking about. But what we're saying is when people come to Bali, even if they did nothing, that's a catalyst for change. There'll be a shift. There'll be something. So this is what the model with Health Hub Bali is that we have navigators, coaches, co-pilots and spaces through Bali, and that's what Rory, and why he's here also tonight, has set up a centre there where people can go. Every centre will connect, how can you say, attract different type of people, okay, and you'll find that there. And you'll get answers to that. But it's connecting, it's still back to ourselves. Everything's about us too. Mm-hmm. Coming back to that space to elevate why we're here. Wake up, and we call them wake up and live retreats. Okay, and then Rory wants to say something. Someone let him talk.
No, you're good, Trace. That's good. Can I be real?
Please do.
So we zoom out, we see the globe. You know, we stand on the moon as kids, we're looking down at this earth, right? There's no borders. We all feel what is going on in the world right now. What is happening in Israel, Gaza, what is happening around the world is also happening to us. We all feel that. If you're human, you feel that. Yeah? So, like, I think on an energetic, spiritual level, we all feel that. Yeah? Because we understand that to dissolve the illusion of separation, we're all connected in some way, shape, or form. You asked the question of, like, what can you do about it? And I just said, you did it. Like, by being that little bright light, that little spark. Now, the challenge that I feel, because I feel like as you kind of get out of here and you stop playing in this like 3D world and you're like a bit more heart-centered and you start doing the deeper work, and then you come back out again, it's like you can see and feel everything, the empaths, the compassion, you know what I mean? So there's a challenge that comes with that. If we don't have the tools or the people around us to help support through those dark moments that we all go through, or the things that we all feel and don't know how to communicate, then we can get stuck there and it can end up being a very downward spiral. Yeah, to the point of like, yes, no longer being here, or making decisions that, take us in the wrong direction. The one thing I've found, I've had friends go through alcoholism, I've had challenges of my own, like where I've hit the depths. The one thing that got me out of it was myself, number one. Yeah? But if I look at it, it was actually the bright light of someone else. So the way that we help each other comes back to, it takes a community to heal the sick, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually. So The way to solve it is create more bright lights, more people that vibe in that way to increase the opportunity of that person having a conversation with someone else that might just like spark that light back up in them. How do we do that? Yeah, I don't know. I think it can be contagious too. So maybe it's a calling for you to share your light a lot more as well.
Just adding to that, and again, now I'm not a health professional. Just want to say that I'm a human being who's not a health professional. Sorry, not sorry. So it's interesting because what I said before, there were two things, but I said there's a third one. But I didn't think necessarily we would go there, but you just went there, so I will follow you there. So one of the main reasons why I started in the first place was because in Sydney, Australia, lived for 25 years in the hospitality industry, high-level stuff, working at I think we had number 3 in the world was our venue that we had for a number of years. And there were 3 guys, all looked good, smelled good, had all the, I use the word deliberately, all of the trappings of success that we're supposed to go for. The house, the wife, the kid, the dog, maybe here in Bali, right? The white picket fence, right? They had it all. 3 of them committed suicide in 1 year, and no one saw it coming. They weren't my best friends, but I thought I was quite close. No one saw it coming. So part of what I understood, leading from what Rory and what Tracy have said as well, is that, it kind of shook me a bit, because then I realized I said, wow, if I have no idea, and I'm quite perceptive, if I have no idea what these guys are thinking, feeling, acting, then what do I do? So by doing this show, the idea was, by the way, there were 2 other pieces of information that are quite important. Number 1 was heart attacks. On Monday, the most common in the world. Heart attacks. The second one is suicide is very common on a Monday as well. So that's why this show is called SpeakuP Monday. Because it's deliberately saying, right, so on a Monday, we're going to drop people inspire people. We're going to drop unity and diversity. We're going to drop mental health assistance into this pond of still water with the ripples of positivity impacting the whole when things are going the other way. So it was a very deliberate decision, but it came majoritively out of what you've just brought up. And again, from what Tracy and both Rory are saying, is that part of the, like we're called to do stuff. We're called to do things. I was called to do this 5 years ago, and I'll never stop, right? So the same thing is for you and people in the audience. It's not just for us through talking. It's for everybody here or everybody who's watching this who feeling something is being tweaked by this particular part of the conversation, saying, right, be the light for others, but realize that you don't necessarily know if someone is good or not good. You actually don't know. So just throw that light out. like a lighthouse doesn't discriminate. Like I'm not going to shed light on that boat there. I'm going to skip it and go to the other one. It just sheds the light. That's it.
And that's the altruistic goal, right? If you've got 1,000 candles in a dark cave, it illuminates the darkness. And the thing with that is it becomes triggering too, because a lot of us, we don't accept those parts of ourselves, the shadow part, the inner child, like all these things, right? So I think there's something that we can do with the honesty, the vulnerability, the transparency, the authenticity of our journey to be like, you know what, I stuffed up too. Yeah, I went down that path, but this is what I learned. That level of transparency within our day might be the thing that just... people won't say anything, but it gives them a bit of context. Because if you're trying to do everything and look like, I could sit up here in a suit, but I just show up as I am. And people are like, who's this dude? Like, surfy guy, like, wearing a hat. The amount of times I get that, And I've sat in rooms with people. And, I remember this story of this Jakartan, he was the billionaire's son. And I sat with him, and I was like, I bought him a beer. Just a random act of kindness. I didn't think anything of it, right? And he was like, no, I got it. I'm like, no, I'll buy you beer, mate. That's what we do in Australia. And then the night went on, and then he invited me back to his house, and like I'm coming into his house, and all these gestures are feeling like you have to give me something, and I'm like, no, I just want to have a chat, man. I'm like, you're a good dude. Like you said, I just want to get to know you. Like I don't care about the Lamborghini or the car or anything like that. And within 20 minutes of sitting there, all of a sudden, I'm lonely. I'm disconnected. None of this fulfills me. And I don't know why I was that person that night. I don't even know why I was in Jakarta. But it created a shift in our connection, and I learned a lot. And then also, like, we stayed connected for a couple of weeks, but then, like, our paths went on. So sometimes it's like we just come into each other's lives to, like, spark something within each other. But if there's 2 or 3 things you want to look out for with friends, like, say, for my friends, like, mental health and suicide is a big thing, is, like, a big shift in behavior. They'll start to isolate, start to disconnect, maybe stop replying, stop showing up, and there'll be it'll just all of a sudden become more and more prolonged. So the ones that are quiet, they're the friends I worry about. The ones that just slowly disappear in the background, I'm like, oh, where's that person been? I haven't seen him in 6 months. And if there's one thing I could suggest to everyone in the audience, to everyone listening, if there's someone in your orbit right now that used to be like this energetically vibrant, vital, that has slowly started to back away, give them a call tomorrow. Shoot them a message. Let them know that you're thinking about them. We have this thing called Are You Okay in Australia? And sometimes that one message is the thing that changes everything.
Thank you, brother. And for people here, maybe Indonesian, like an Indonesian voice, Bali Bersama Bisa. Bali Bersama Bisa, friends which run a really strong mental health line, right? Bali Bersama Bisa. Okay, any other questions? Carol or Takano wants to go again. He's feeling it now, right? It's the Africa's coming through him. He's like, I got another question. It's okay, brother, we'll come back to you.
Actually, I wanted to continue on what Naomi just mentioned and what you spoke about, because what is obvious to me is that we might be shining our lights, but sometimes the light is too far away. Sometimes the people, we cast our light, but when you cast your light, you can also cast a shadow of a people. And they look at your light and they think, I will never get there. So it's discouragement. So I'm wondering whether it is not better or whether it wouldn't be another thing to do, to learn how to ask the right questions.
Yes.
Because we do not ask questions. And how mate are you doing today is not a question.
Yes. So what's your question?
What would be some of the questions that you would say would be the most potent to find out how well or unwell someone is?
In terms, yeah. I think number one, the thing that resonates straight away is the quality of the question will determine the quality of the answer. So you're asking what are the most quality questions that you can ask to really feel if someone is in a good space. I think this is something like maybe on the audience as well. Like if you have, like obviously we have questionnaires and things, like we've got these objective and subjective measures, but to actually know like that "Are you okay?" question, or checking in, letting someone know that you're thinking about them. Is there anything they need? Anything you can support with? How are you really feeling? Like I've noticed that one has been a big one with or how's your heart today? I use that with a couple of friends when I know they're going through something and they know what that question is, and they just drop in and be like, you know what? You're the first person to ask me that in 3 months. How's your heart today?
I asked that question.
Yeah.
How you really?
I think Tracy wants to ask something.
Yeah, no. So this is what can get on people's nerves. They don't really care what you until they realise you actually care. So saying how you're going and that can be quite push them further and further away and dislocate them. Did you want to say something? Sorry, lady. Do you want to say? Yeah.
Just wanted to add also the power of touch.
Yeah.
Because we haven't talked about it. I'm never afraid to touch, and I'm never afraid to kiss, and I'm never afraid to hug, and it's something that is as good for me as it is for others. And sadly, with screen time, with AI, we have now, yes, generations of people who don't know how to connect with each other. They don't know how to make friends. And they are really they're virtually and also really alone. But the power that the people who are not afraid of touching have to touch, so that we can open that door and then say no, it's okay. And I know that in the myth of Me Too, this has become a real issue, but I think we've lost something about the courage to touch others. I think that's really very, very important to diffuse that bad energy, because there is nothing like a hug to actually really take the temperature of someone. You just by being held and holding as well. That's very, very powerful for men and for women. And I would say that the fourth biggest problem that we have on this island is the issue of romantic relationships, where people do not know how to create committed and meaningful relationships, because sex is randomly available, but sex is short-term, and it's not a long-term investment into your longevity. And as you say, the quality of our relationships define absolutely everything. In all these zones, in all these blue zones, they all eat exactly. It's the only thing that they all have in common, because they all eat different things. They all are connected.
Thank you, Carol. We'll pass on to that one and back to you, Takana. Okay. He's chomping at the bit over here. This guy, love you. Takana really wants it. So, Amanda, close to your mouth. Yeah.
Sorry, I take your place.
You're not sorry. It's okay. He's going to get his turn. It's okay.
I just like to adding something, because based on my personal experience, I've been dealing with a lot of clients around the world. So basically, mostly our communications online. So it's like, me personally, it depends on the situation. Somehow I just like randomly ask, so okay, shoot, just like that, and then suddenly they're just like open up. If I'm encounter them like in person, I just like, hey, oh my God, you look so beautiful. And we just talk about, I don't know, random things aside from the problem that I somehow know very well what they have on their life. So it's not like directly, but again, it depends on the situation and the person. Sometimes they just don't want to open up. We just sit there, just enjoy the view or enjoy anything we have. And I just suddenly say like, well, I'm ready if you're ready. Or whenever you want to say anything you want to say, just speak. I'm here. In the end of the story, in the end of the call, in the end of everything, I always say, I'm here, available. Just reach me out. You don't have to transfer me, even though I literally really need the money. But I'm here if you like to talk. Just that. So kind of like that encouragement. You don't have to always give the hug if you cannot meet the person in person, but you can always try to send the vibe. Like, people always catch the energy. Yeah. Well, you always can see who really welcome you genuinely and who's faking it. So they just can't see that and they can feel that. That's the thing I always send to everyone. Online, both offline. So yeah, perhaps that's I like to add. And for Naomi, from my personal experience, I lost my mother. I'm not even on her deathbed when we have very horrible family chaos story, whatever you like to say. So it's kind of like perhaps the power of you deciding something. You decide what you like to do, what you like to have, what you like to think. When you know and you have that, I don't know, the ability for you to see the thing that it's not right. Somehow like the escapism. I can enjoy throw myself into parties. But when you know that it's just not right, it's not permanent, it's very temporary. So I prefer, for me, I decide to embrace it. I cannot be there. Sending a lot of prayers, and until now, I cannot visit, in quote, the cemetery for some reason. So it's just kind of like for us, perhaps, to embrace that we cannot, in some points, it's so sad and it's horrible. So it's, yeah. So I guess the power of acceptance, for me, it's important for myself. And the way I decide that I have to live with that in some points.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we're going to be coming close to wrapping the show, so we'll go to Takana, then we'll come back over here to. That's okay. To Brother Guzman. Mind your feet. Yeah, that's good. All right, coming over here. So just in case you're tuning in, you're watching Health at Bali. This is episode number 437 of Speak Up Monday. It's been a deep session, Rory. Yeah, we never know which thread it's going to take, but it goes where it's supposed to. But right now we're going to come back to our last question. Then after that, what we're going to do is that the way we kind of wrap the show is that we ask you, Brother Rory, if there's anything you want to either reiterate or summarize what's coming up for you now to kind of leave people with something, right? And then we'll finish with Tracy, who will probably recap, what we kind of did today in terms of, the Health Hub Bali mission and how it brings all of this together. All right. So, Takana, you're getting close. You're getting coaching on that question. This is a deep question that's been workshopped and coached from husband to wife. It better be good.
Yeah, I think that's a very deep question, and I think there's a maybe needed Speak Up Monday, I think, around that. But just to highlight on some of the things said on that topic, and something that you said coming back to medicine and health, I think touch is very important. I'm a very big advocate for touch. I mean, touch is our first medicine. And it is actually the richest medium in which we can actually communicate love and emotions more than actual, verbal communication. And so I don't know, in different ways in which we can open up for touch, and, with things that have happened in the recent past, touch has been something to be afraid of. And we have to understand that it's been taken away from our very first medicine. So maybe finding ways to come back to that. And another thing that I just want to bring up is that a very big part of, say, African medicine, when you go and you see, let's say, a medicine woman, a medicine man, call it a shaman, and in Nyanga, one of the first things which they do in the treatment is to detox you, to take things, to get into your gut and to clear your gut out, right? And there's many different techniques in which that's done. And I find that a very big part of a lot of mental things that eat away at the mind are because, coming back again to health, parasites. And I think it's always good to regularly detox. We live in an acid environment that can also, correspond into your gut. Mucus, anything that creates mucus, creates an environment for parasites to live. And a lot of the times you find people actually going through things. I've been this through myself, where my mind has been eating at me like to the point where I want to off myself, literally. But because that I've done detoxes so many times, and I do a detox, and it's literally like, whoa, what was that? What's just kind of gotten rid of it, And so I think that's a very big part also of medicine, and just opening up to the availability of different ways to detox, different ways to cleanse, because of the gut mind connection and moving of parasites.
Yep. So thank you so much, Takano. Yep. What we're talking about here is longevity. And the thing is, unless we have these things sorted, the last 3 years has been, first of all, personalised, preventative, and the science. Science is just knowledge, and it's about that connection with yourself. And we just talked the other day, we're all actually Indigenous. We've just lost the 1% on the planet who aren't from these other countries, America, England, Australia, etc. We've lost touch with it, okay? So it's coming back here in Bali, we're coming back to basics. But these things, whether all the systems, the gut, the mind, the structure, our posture, our whole systems and how that's functioning, that's where we start. And to elevate this long life, all the elements are in, say, Rory's book and these type of centres that he's set up as well. But unless we get these other ones sorted, the dementia is huge. We just had an aged care big week seminar, people from other countries here, and it's not... When we talk about preventative, that's why we want the testing. We've got technology now. We can find out biome. Your generations might have been eating something that's been upsetting your whole mental state for decades. Now with AI, we can find out what that is. And that was the technology component of this. And then based on that, we can just reset what's happening in our gut and in our whole physiology. And then we can make conscious choices. And then, have different outcomes. Otherwise, we'll keep repeating things, what we've been doing generationally. Yeah.
Rory has a mic already. He's got his mic back. He won't be needing that one anymore. So look, just before we go to the wrap up, looks like that Rory will wrap us up unless you have something else to add, Tracy. All right. So just a few things. So this has been episode 437. Just want to thank everybody here, including Tropical Nomad. We have Brother Guzman, Hadis, and Ayu, who's somewhere. Obviously here, the audience. Thank you very much indeed for coming in person and looking at this. Next week for episode 438, it's all about finance and basically how I know. So now we go straight from the health into the money. Show me the money. So this is all about finance in Asia, but especially Southeast Asia, which is a huge problem that business and non-business has, is how do you raise capital? So that will be next week. Toby Nagi will be here. That will be an episode. If you're interested in that, feel free to come. Again, before we go to Rory, just want to thank Tracy, Health of Bali. This is many episodes now. I'm looking forward to what we're going to do next month. Rory, been a long time, brother. Great to see you. Thank you for blessing us with your presence and your presence, right, as well as your knowledge. Because again, I think you're an amazing fella. It's been great to be connected with you all these years and to reconnect at the times that we do, right? So wonderful. Yeah. So everybody, we'll go to Rory. Then after that, we'll grab a photo with everybody, and then welcome to have a chat to the wonderful people which are amassed today. Over to you, Rory.
Thank you, brother. So for anyone that doesn't know, Robert and I just keep bumping into each other over the years, always in really amazing containers. Yeah. Like there was Bali Bloom, all these like speaking conferences, but it's always people that he's always in service. And I just wanted to like really honor you, man. I know you've got kids, you got a family, you're showing up on a Monday night. I didn't know SpeakuP Monday was about the things you talked about.
That's right.
So that helps me feel more connected. And Trace, just been kicking on. She's trying to bring something really special. Well, she is bringing something really special to Bali, and to bring like the first like integrative health hub. She has such an amazing network. You know, all the people in this room are a great example. So we just need to find a way to actually help her create a physical space where we can all connect on a regular basis, and where we can send our friends to like get the solutions that they need. Trace and I usually have a bit of a contrast in viewpoints. She loves the science, the testing, the assessing, the analysis, and more strategic pathways. Over the years, I used to do that. Now I step back, and I think the one message is that like community connection is the elixir to longevity. It's a thing that we started with. It's a thing that we finish with. And the reason most of our disharmony comes in our life is when we become disconnected from each other, from ourselves. And in the essence of like, you know, Trihita Karana on this island, we get disconnected from nature. So the ultimate medicine is connection. And I want you to really take a minute this week and just smile at strangers, random act of kindness. The karma that you were given the moment you landed on this island, I want you to do your best to just pay that forward. Not to give back, to pay it forward to any stranger that might need it. And sometimes, like my mum always told me, a smile might change someone's day. The right question at the right time. A hey, how you doing? Those little things might be the thing that just bring people out of that world and back into this presence and this vitality. And just also, we are all mindful of what's happening in the world right now. Yeah? The art of war is to disconnect, to divide and conquer. If 7.9 billion people find that unity and diversity and stand up together to remain connected, then that's the ultimate medicine for the future generations. But again, it comes back to connection. So I think that's it, Robert.
Thank you, everybody. Rory, Tracy, everybody, round of applause. Thank you very much indeed. See you next week.